Pleasant good morning. Right here on, of course, Cruising with a Case Handler. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome. All right. Mr. Alan E.K., welcome to the show.
Thank you.
It's good to have you.
That's
Miss
good.
Alexandra Bondakov, it's good to have you.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
It's great to be here, ladies and gentlemen. And of course, we're here to do a show on immigration and personal injury. It's where we have attorneys on our radio program, 93.5 WVIP FM, answering questions in those areas, personal injury and immigration. If you're just joining us, the name of the show is called Cruising with the Case Handler. The case handler happens to be an attorney by the name of Adam Handler, and he's a partner at the firm Pollock, Isaac, and DeSico. Go reach out to him on Instagram and Facebook and follow him there, the case handler. And ladies and gentlemen, we're going to jump right into it. It's 28 minutes before the hour. It's the first day of April, and I'm not going to crack any April Fool's joke. All right. Don't want to get slapped around by the attorneys. So I was going to do it. I'm like, you know what? I'm not even going to do that today. All right. Might not go off too well. I might say something in regards to immigration. Next thing, Biden is coming for me. So I'm like, no, let me not say anything. I was going to say something about amnesty. I was like, no, that's going to get me in trouble, you know. But anyway, speaking about information, speaking about immigration, seeing that I've got great, phenomenal attorneys with me today, I am going to see what it is that Mr. General, his real name is Alan E.K., Esquire, what he has to say on any immigration updates that there may be. And then later on, we have some questions for both Ms. Alexandra Bondakov and Alan E.K. So let's flip it over to Alan. Alan, how you doing, man? What's going on in the immigration world?
There's always a lot going on. Let me give you an update, and when I get to do too much, you can cut me off, and then we can go to Alex or talk about
questions, you know, for both of you.
Okay, so immigration changes in a few different ways. It changes because the president issues an executive order. Trump issued thousands of executive orders. It changes if the government issues a regulation, which is better than an executive order. The best change is where legislation, where the House passes something and then the Senate passes something and the president signs it. That's the best, but that's the hardest. Okay, so now in terms of legislation, which is the best, there are four things we're looking at. We're looking at something called the Dream and Promise Act of 2021, which passed the House. Hopefully it'll pass the Senate, but for the Senate, you need 60 votes. Republicans have 50 votes, so some Republicans have to come along. The second thing we're looking at is something called the Farm Workers Modernization Act, which will help 1 million undocumented farm workers. That also passed the House. Hopefully it'll pass the Senate. A lot of Republicans come from states where farm workers are important. The third bit of legislation is something called the Citizenship and for Essential Workers. That was introduced by Senator Elizabeth Warren. And that's lawmakers, Republicans and Democrats like that. It's a path to citizenship for certain undocumented immigrants who are working in critical sectors like healthcare, emergency response, sanitation, food services, agriculture, and meat. And the last thing we have is the best and the most important, is called the Immigration Act of 2021, which was introduced by President Biden. I don't know if it's ever going to pass the Senate because he needs the 60 votes, but pieces of it may go forward. So that's something to really keep an eye on. But both the Farm Worker Modernization Act will help over 1 million undocumented farm workers, and the American Dream and Promise Act will help several million dreamers and people who are on TPS. Okay, let's go on to some more things that are going on. In terms of biometrics, which is something that has to be done in most immigration cases where they call you in to get your fingerprints done, called biometrics. Unfortunately, there are 91,000 cases across the country waiting for biometrics. So that's a downer. Hopefully that'll be resolved, but who knows when. Okay, now also we have a problem with consular processing. there are about 500,000 cases pending at the National Visa Center. So those cases have to go from the National Visa Center and then they're scheduled for appointment at consulates. And the problem is that you were going to have to expect long delays on those cases. Now, some of these consular cases are waiting at the consulate. They're there already waiting for the consulate to schedule them. Some of them are not even at the consulates yet. They're at the National Visa Center, and that's those 500,000 cases. So it's really a mess, and you're going to expect long delays until people are called for appointments at the consulates. Okay, now let's talk about what's happening at ICE. Okay, now, according to a March 9th report, ICE arrests fell more than 60% in the month of February. And part of the reason for that is there are some new changes for really good in terms of following when they will when they will go after people and try to remove them and arrest them and detain them, deport them. And so under a new program called the ICE Case Review Process, immigrants and their lawyers can request an arrest, a detention, an imminent deportation to be reviewed to determine whether it's going to happen or not, because the priorities now for ICE are not just anybody who's illegally here. We're under the Trump administration. People could be picked up anybody could be picked up if they had no status. The ICE priorities are national security, border security, and public safety. And so if you are come into contact with ICE and they want to hold you, arrest you, detain you, deport you, there's a review process that can be done. And I was on a call yesterday with a lot of people from the New York chapter ICE committee, and people have had lawyers have had their clients released, even clients who had criminal convictions and criminal problems because of the ICE case review process. So that's really a good thing in terms of what's going on with ICE. Now, as far as public charge is out. The Biden administration put it away. Of course, it's being challenged in court by some states, but it's out right now. Health insurance is out. It's been enjoined by the federal courts. Problem with the public charges, even though it's out now, you don't have to do the 944. You don't have to worry about going to an interview and them asking you questions about where's your 944. The fear that people had because public charge was in and people were afraid to access certain benefits, that's hard to put out of people's minds. So good that public charge is out, good that health insurance is enjoined. Hopefully people will not be afraid to use public benefits that they could have used, but were afraid to use because of the public charge. So we've got problems with the biometrics. We've got legislation that is pending, but hopefully something will go through the Senate. We have cases that are, just getting back to ICE for a minute, I was on a call yesterday dealing with ICE. And for example, one of the reasons that maybe ICE arrests down is that the New York ICE field office is operating at only 25%. They don't even have enough people to do things, which is good. So that's some of the updates that are going on with problems with the consulates, problems with the National Visa Center, problems with biometrics. But that gives you kind of an update on what's going on. One more thing, people who have removal proceedings going on, a lot of those people have removal proceedings, but they're not detained and no date has been scheduled. And so these are for the 3 New York immigration courts, downstate New York immigration courts. And the date for hearings, if you have a removal proceeding, you're not detained and you don't have a date yet, and you're waiting for them to schedule your removal proceeding, now it keeps getting postponed and postponed. Now it's been postponed to May 14, 2021, and it keeps getting pushed back. So if you have a removal proceeding, I mean, sometimes good things happen at removal proceedings, and sometimes you want to have a removal proceeding. But if you're not detained and you're waiting for a date, it keeps getting pushed back to the latest date is May 14th, 2021. So that's some of the, oh, one more thing, temporary protected status. Temporary protected status is something that is given to eligible people from certain countries who are in the United States and circumstances in their countries make it unsafe to return. And so maybe there's an armed conflict, there's natural disaster, other extraordinary conditions. And so you're allowed, if you get TPS, temporary protected status, to live and work in the United States temporarily. And the TPS designation can go from anywhere from 6 to 18 months and can be extended for many years. So as of January 2021, the following countries are designated currently for TPS: El Salvador, Haiti, Honduras, Nepal, Nicaragua, Somalia, South Sudan, Syria, Venezuela, and Yemen. Venezuela is the most recent country that was added to TPS status. And so people who are from Venezuela can get these benefits. You can get permission to work. They're not going to deport you. They're not going to arrest you. It's called temporary protected status. So that sort of gives you an update of the latest things that are going on, and we'll be happy to and see if Alex wants to make any points or make any comments, and then we can do questions. Alex, anything you want to see you like to say?
Well, a couple of things. We've been talking about the visa bans for a while.
Good.
The first one, the immigrant visa ban, was implemented in April. Then in June, the Trump administration expanded it to include non-immigrant visas. Both bans were expanded by the Trump administration. The Biden administration rescinded the immigrant visa ban, but didn't do so for the non-immigrant visa ban. Regardless, that ban expired yesterday. I call this a qualified good news because now the consulates can issue. The problem is that, as Mr. K mentioned at the beginning of the program, the consulates are basically a mess right now, operating at reduced capacity, and some of them basis. So that's one recent development. And the second thing I wanted to mention is something that's near and dear to my heart, the H-1B visa lottery registration that was also completed yesterday, and were notified. Now, I haven't seen the official numbers yet, but based on our experience and anecdotal reports from other practitioners, this year's selection rate was about 25%, which is very, 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 very low. So these are the two things I wanted to mention in terms of updates.
Okay, great. Once again, folks, if you're just joining us, you heard from Alan E.K., the general we call him because of his depth and experience in the capacity of immigration. You also heard, of course, from Alexandra Bondakov, one of the individuals who's truly seriously experienced in immigration and has been helping people for a number of years. With that said, we're about to get to our immigration questions. You may ask those questions on my Facebook page, David Squeezaniki, or the firm's page, PPID, or Adam Handler's page, the case handler page. And speaking about Adam Handler, he is a powerful personal injury attorney in our hemisphere in the New Jersey, New York area. If you ever get hurt in an accident, you need him. Automobile accident, slip and fall, trip and fall. I mean, everyone on this station by now knows who Adam Handler is, the case handler. They know that he's the most powerful personal injury attorney out there. It's the same number that you call for immigration that you call for personal injury. And that number is 844-774-3529. That's 844-774-3529. 844-PPIDLAW. With that said, let's jump into some questions. And I find some of these questions that I've received today very interesting. And I'm quite sure Ms. Bondakov and Mr. K will find them very interesting. It's always a story. And by the way, I love, I've been doing this since 1996, and I love hearing all these different experiences and stories because it shows where we're all coming from, what we're all going through. But it's great to know that we have attorneys here that will help us, no matter how sad, how amusing, how interesting they may sound. The firm is here to help you, PPID. All right. So let's go to the first question here. It says, my situation is this. I was living with my boyfriend a few years ago, and I went to a party with my friends where I met a really handsome guy and we had a little fun. I became pregnant, but I wasn't sure who the father was when the baby was born. My boyfriend signed the papers, and so my daughter has his name. I realized that my baby couldn't be for my boyfriend, so I asked my friends to help me find a guy from the party. We found him on Facebook, and he said he often wondered about me and that he's living in New York. I told him about my daughter and sent him pictures. He said my daughter is the spitting image of his daughter. They could pass as twins. He now wants to sponsor my daughter, but the problem is she doesn't have his name. Can this be fixed? Do I have to go to court to prove who is the father? I have since broken up with my boyfriend, and he doesn't want to have anything to do with us. I need your advice to sort this out so that my daughter can have a good opportunity in the US. Alexandra, you want to take this one?
I'll give it a shot. So basically, she can establish paternity through the court system. That's number one. But in terms of immigration, if the biological father can petition for his daughter, but he will have to prove the relationship. And one way to prove the relationship, if he's not on the birth certificate and he was not married to the mother, would be through a DNA test. So yes, it is possible.
All right. So
But I would suggest that they establish a relationship, right? It's not just DNA. It's like he sends money or he's involved in the child's life, one way or the other.
Yeah, the daughter is apparently in the United States. It wasn't clear how she got here, whether she came with a visa or whether she came.
Oh yeah, I didn't ask about that. Is the child abroad? Is the child here? If she was born here?
No. The child is actually with her in Jamaica.
Okay, yeah. So she was asking whether she can petition, the father can petition for the daughter.
Right. How can the daughter? Yeah, she wants her daughter to have a much better life, a much better education
In America, yes.
Yeah. You know.
The question is also, where is the mother? Because
the mother is in Jamaica.
All right. So assuming that
mother and the daughter is in Jamaica.
Assuming that the father petitions for the daughter and an immigrant visa is available for the daughter, and the consul is going to be concerned, well, okay, we give an immigrant visa to the child. Who's the child going to live with in the United States?
The father.
Okay, well, so then this could work out, but as Alex said, we need proof that every biological proof that he really is the father.
Okay, all right. Very interesting story. It happens. All right, but once again, it's good to know that we have a firm, Pollock, Isaac, and the C called PPID that's there to answer these questions. So the moral of this story for me is, ladies and gentlemen, no matter what we're going through in life, all right, there's always an answer. No matter what you have gone through, no matter what you're going through, there's always an answer. There's always a way to make things better. And it's very good to know that we have attorneys that can actually help out in this case. If I were this individual, it's not something that I would do on my own. Considering the complexity of this case, I think you would want to hire PPID. So call them at 844-774-3529. And if you have a similar situation or a story, reach out to PPID. Let them answer your questions. Many of you may have questions you don't want to share on the airwaves. All right. So you call them at 844-774-3529. Many of you, I'm going to put it out there. Close your ears, Alan and Alexandra. Many of you are just playing cheap to yourself. You're very cheap. You are extremely cheap to yourself. You treat yourself like you're not worth anything. Okay. The most important thing probably in your life is sorting out your status. And rather than focusing on that, you don't want to actually pay to get that done. You want to try it yourself. I'm going to tell you something. Stop being cheap to yourself. You spend money on rent, your car, your hair, your nails, your shoes, everything else. But the one thing that you may want to make sure that you do is sort out your status in the United States. This way you can have a much better life. This way your family can have a much better life. I said it, and I don't care who wants to get upset. Stop being cheap to yourself. Stop coming up with the excuses. What squeezes, is pandemic times and all of that. Yeah, but your ass can get kicked out of the country if you don't take care of yourself. So wake up. I've had people call me, Squeeze, the attorneys are charging. Hello, Do you know that they are running a business, a firm, a for-profit business? They have families just like you. So, ladies and gentlemen, I've been doing this, like I said, since 1996. And I have helped by way of proxy through the attorneys, okay, for people to be in a much better situation. And yes, I'm lambasting you right now, but make the right decision. Choose your weapons carefully. And my weapons happen to be my attorneys from PPID. Don't sit around waiting for amnesty because it doesn't exist right now, all right? Don't sit around waiting for all these things to drop out of the sky for you. Call the firm. If they give you an option, here's what you got to say to yourself. You know what? Squeeze brought them this way. I tell you what, let me work something out with them, all right? Don't dispute I mean, if you want to dispute and negotiate the prices, that's your business. But what I'm simply saying to you is make sure you hire them. That's what you've got to do, all right? The number to call once again for these great attorneys happens to be 844-774-3529. That's 844-PPID-LAW. You know, Alexandra, Allen, do you know how many times I see people call me up and said, Squeeze, the attorneys are charging. Are they charging too much? You know, I'm going to go do it myself. I said, don't make that mistake, man. Don't. And then they screw up the process and themselves. Now
Can I jump in here just really quickly since you brought it up?
Yeah.
I just want to give one very recent example. I had a very nice conversation with a caller. They tried to do their case on their own. They filed on their own with the help of a friend. The friend did something that triggered red flags. USCIS denied the case. The caller then went on to hire an attorney. The attorney prepared the case and filed again. The case was again denied because of what happened that first time.
Right.
So she came to us and I basically said, you are fighting an uphill battle. You know, now you have 2 strikes against you. So it's not just don't do it on your own. You know, be careful of what help you choose because the wrong help can hurt you. And this is a very good example and a very sad example of how things who, you know, were, I mean, I wouldn't call them routine, but they were approvable, went sideways.
There you go.
You see, add to that, if this person did it by themselves, let's put it another way. If the person came to us, we would probably fix it and charge them X because they did it by themselves. And then they went to another lawyer and the lawyer charged Y and didn't
X minus. Yeah.
work out. Now they're going to come to us and it's going to be even more money than if they
X plus. I completely understand. And that's what, you know, listen, listen, I'm a very cocky, confident guy in anything I do. Everybody on 93.5 know that. But one thing people know about me, Squeeze, if I bring attorneys to you, you know, and I can say, the attorneys can't say, you're getting the best. That's how I am because I have that much of a pride. I'm not going to bring someone to you who is not going to be the best. I'm not. Everybody knows that. I don't put anything on my show unless it's the best. Everything I put on, it has to be that way. That's how I am. So if I bring these attorneys to you, I already know that you're getting the best attorneys possible. The attorneys can't say it, but I know that. And one thing I love about PPID, they will never, ever take your money unless they know they can genuinely help you. They would rather turn you away. They'd rather not take your case. And that I love because I've worked with attorneys in the past that will say, there's a possibility, retain me. PPI, and not that there's anything wrong with that, I'm saying, okay, but PPID is different. They're not going to say, there's a possibility, retain me. No, they're gonna be like, you know what? We're not 100% sure that this is going to work, so here's what. I think it's best if you stay under the radar, okay? We're not gonna take your case. I love that honesty. I love that about PPID. I love that about Pollock, Isaac, and DeSico. That's clear, that's direct. They're not giving you some hope in the sky. They're being very straightforward. And that's the reason why I say, if you're listening to 93.5 FM, you only need one law firm. And that law firm is PPID, Pollock, Isaac, and DeSico. Alan E.K., Alexandra Bondikoff, Conrad Pollock, Nelson Madrid. I could go on and on and on and on. So people, stop being cheap to yourself. That's what we're talking about. Stop doing the case yourself, ladies and gentlemen. And also, stop going to people that you know are not necessarily experienced. This firm has been around for 60 years, 60 solid years. All right. I mean, Alan EK has been around longer than that, but this firm has been around for 6 years. I'm showing his experience. And people, come on. It's your life here in the United States. Don't mess it up. I'm an immigrant. Okay. I know how things can go south. Make the right decision. Call them 844-774-3529. That's 844-774-3529. All right, let's get another quick question here. I had filed for an adjustment of status through spousal support back in 2007, during which time I also got arrested and served time in federal prison. After my federal sentence was completed, I was transferred to ICE custody and I resumed my adjustment of status petition, which is still moving forward. While in ICE custody, I found out that my immigration number was invalid and the immigration judge could not see me because there was nothing in their system for me. I brought this to the ICE attention along with the fact that my petition was still processing and they still deported me to Jamaica. After being deported, the U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services, USCIS, sent me a letter requesting my fingerprints. I did it at the office on Duke Street and sent it to them. This is in Kingston. The issue I have now is that they sent me the I-693 medical form to complete, and there's no medical institution in Jamaica authorized to use that form. What do I do? I don't even know where this is going, but maybe you attorneys understand more.
I do. I think what's happening here is that he filed the adjustment of status application and it's now getting processed. This is why USCIS is requiring fingerprints and also the medical. The problem is that he's no longer eligible for adjustment because he's been deported and he's currently abroad. So, USCIS at some point will catch on to this and will deny the adjustment. So I wouldn't worry too much about the medical because it's not going to be necessary.
Not gonna go through.
There are doctors, civil surgeons in Jamaica that are authorized to do this. However, they only do it in response to a consulate's letter of interview. So I think this is what's happening. It's just that it took so long for USCIS to catch up onto the processing of this case that he's no longer eligible for adjustment.
What has to be done is the case has to be transferred to the American consulate and process the immigrant visa through the American consulate, but then going to have to deal with the criminal conviction also, which may be enough to stop him from getting his immigrant visa at the American consulate.
So basically call an attorney.
Yeah, and if he had, and help me out here, if he had a solid attorney, they could have actually fought for him to actually stay in the United States, right?
Yep, we could have done a lot to try to keep him here.
So this way he wouldn't have been deported, because once he's deported, that's it, he was shot, right?
That's much more difficult to save him, to get him back here.
Got you. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, we're getting to the top of the hour. I do have one more question, and these questions are very interesting. Right up Nelson Madrid's alley, but he's not here today. Everyone disappeared on me, but that's okay. It's all right. All right. It's all right. Anyway, the number is 844-774-3529, 844-PPID-LAW. Want to remind you, ladies and gentlemen, right here, the law firm Pollock, Isaac, and DeSico is located in Manhattan, with offices in Peekskill and also in Brooklyn. Do remember to reach out to them. They're a full service law firm in the area of immigration and personal injury. God forbid you get hurt in an accident. The number for the case handler, the number for the law firm is 844-774-3529. That's 844-PPID-LAW, 844-774-3529. If you want to continue listening, go to my page, David Squeeze Anarchy, or the firm's page, or the case handler page. That's David Squeeze Anarchy. We'll continue right after the top of the hour. Let's go.
It's 10 o'clock.
All right, continuing on Facebook quickly. I think this is the final question. Last year, my boyfriend was called into his probation office as he was placed on probation a few months ago for a crime he committed a year before. He was in full compliance, but ICE was there waiting for him and arrested him on the spot. Wow, ICE don't play. His family and I wrote letters and attended his court hearings to testify on his behalf, but he was still deported off after his asylum request was denied. He refused to appeal because he no longer wanted to be behind bars. He was deported 3 months from the time he was arrested, and it has been almost a year. This has literally torn him and his family and friends apart. He and I were involved for over a year, and we considered getting married before he left. As I'm an American citizen, born and raised in the United States. but it never got that far. I would like to know if he has a chance to return to the States before the 10 years he was banned for.
First of all, she's got to get married to even have a chance to get back here. And then we have to see what we can do to do an immigrant visa and bring him back and undo the deportation. So they got two problems. They're not married yet. He's got to get married before we can even start an immigrant visa case. And then we've got to deal with the fact that he was deported and why he was deported and see if we can get that taken back.
Gotcha. The key here, ladies and gentlemen, is to reach out to the firm, all right? Get a solid consultation with them, and they'll be very forthright in letting you know if there is any possibility, and they'll be very honest with you. So reach out to the firm, PPID. The number, once again, is 844-774-3529. Final question, and we conclude. In 2018, a petition was filed on my behalf to migrate to the United States by my US citizen parent. Ever since, I've been trying to get every information as it relates to the process from start to finish. During my research, I found where unmarried adult children over 21 years of US category was F2B. While checking recently, I realized that the category has moved to F1. My question is, would the time frame reduce from 6 years for a visa to be readily available, or will it remain the same? I have also realized that other categories have switched around. Could you outline if this is another push that's being made by President Biden?
If
It has nothing to do with President Biden.
Nothing.
It has nothing to do with President Biden. The priority dates are the priority dates are determined based on need, basically, right? Every month, the Department of State sees how many visas are requested, and this is what drives the visa bulletin. In terms of the F1, if the caller is the unmarried son or daughter of an American citizen, then their category is F1, family-based first preference, and that's the priority date that they should be looking. And it doesn't matter in what category the visa petition was originally filed. If the parent was an LPR, meaning in F2B, then they retain that same date.
Gotcha. All right.
Does it make sense?
It makes a lot of sense. Gotcha.
Yep. category is now up to October 8th, 2014. And so the original date when it was an F2B carries over, but they're up to, on the F1, they're up to October 8th, 2014.
Right.
Gotcha.
So there's not really a big difference there.
Okay. I want to say super thanks to you, Alan Nikkei, for being here today and answering those questions. I want to say super thanks to you, Alexandra Bondakov. I think this has been a great show, a phenomenal show. And a lot of folks out there do remember the firm is here, PPID, Paula Pollock, Isaac, and DeSico, and they're here answering your questions.
May I have your attention, please? May I have your attention, please? This is to notify you that we'll be conducting a
Wow, sounds
All right.
serious.
Better get moving before the-
I see the big B on the hat.
I couldn't resist. I couldn't resist. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you so much. I'm quite sure Conrad is watching and seeing that now. All
I
right.
hope he still likes me.
Thank you, Alan Nikkei.
Bye.
Thank you.
Have a great day.